Okay, so picture this. It's COVID, your husband is traveling, and your son calls to tell you he's moving to Kansas City and your grandkids are going with him. You hang up the phone and you just fall apart. The kind of cry where you can't even catch your breath. That was my guest today. And here's what makes her story so good. Right in that moment, instead of staying stuck, she grabbed her laptop and started searching for what was next. And what came next was a graduate degree, a nonprofit she now runs, work with organizations all over the world, and a music career writing songs that make her cry because her own soul is finally getting to speak. But here's what she told me in the interview. While she was raising her kids, she took her life and put it on the shelf. And it just sat there for decades. And that Kansas City phone call was the moment she finally looked up on the shelf and said, okay, it's time. Her name is Maureen Mehr. She's actually my neighbor. And when I heard her story, I knew you had to hear it too. This episode is part of a series called How to Stop Living Through Your Kids and Start Living Your Own Life. Every episode in this series, I'm sitting down with a real woman who woke up one day and realized she had quietly disappeared into everyone else's story and then did something about it. They aren't perfect, polished stories, they're honest ones. The kind where you probably hear yourself in someone else's words and think, wait, that's me. If you've been wondering if there's more to you, the answer is yes. Now, let's get into it. Okay, welcome. We are so excited to have our first guest for the How to Stop Living Through Your Kids and Start Living Your Own Life series. And so we have Maureen Mehr here, and she is a neighbor of mine, and we have interacted for 15, 20 years on and off. We came together and I heard her story, and I thought, my women need to hear what she has to say about how to stop living through your kids and start living your own life. So thanks so much for being here, Maureen.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here, spend this time with you, and talk about this topic as well.
Let's just let listeners know a little bit more about you, get to know you a little bit before we dive in. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're all about.
Okay, so who you really are is a little bit of a loaded question because of what I do. However, I am married. I met my husband in fifth grade, which is kind of a unique thing because we were pretty young and we still have a Valentine's cards that we gave to each other back then. I'm a mother of three sons that are all adults, obviously, and having their lives. And then I'm a grandmother to five little squishies, is how I like to refer to them. And then just a little bit about me. I'm really passionate about learning, and I'm actually still a student. I really feel like my journey has been discovering and knowing and remembering who I really am. And I was on that path already when I came across a business at the time. It's now a nonprofit organization, but it's called Who I Really Am. And I am the president of that organization. And it's a transformational framework for helping people just discover their identity and understand who they are and live with purpose and clarity and self mastery in all areas of their life. So that's what I do, spend a lot of my time doing, along with just consulting with a lot of nonprofit organizations internationally and helping other people to get involved in either humanitarian work or their mission and purpose and knowing who they are. And then I also like to take my mission and bring it to an audience through music and messages. And so I'm a singer-songwriter and I write songs that help just to give that message in a little bit different way than we're used to hearing it. It's somehow music touches us differently. And it's even touched me because I'm the one writing the songs and I'm singing them over and over. And sometimes I'll just start bawling because it lands. And I finally get the message that my soul is trying to speak. I also like doing that's just part of my mission. And then finally, leadership is another aspect of what I've studied. And there's always just this overall wholeness that I am desiring to achieve and to also bring that to those whom I work with and in whatever way I can.
I love that. Ladies, aren't you just so excited to hear more from her today? The words that really stuck out to me was discovering and remembering. 'Cause it's like who you are. It's not like you just start over in your second act of life. You just remembering who you are, everything you've learned, and then discovering what's going forward and the wholeness. We're all whole, but just discovering and remembering them.
Remembering wholeness, yes.
Okay, tell us 3 words that describe you.
One word that I would use to describe myself is friendly. Much to my kids' dismay sometimes because they're like, just check into the hotel, mom, we're tired. I just have this propensity to want to engage with people. And I'd say another word is, I guess the way it is to describe it would be perhaps strategic. I'm a think outside the box problem solver person. And so I strategize on how to get to yes. And then the third one may be like today they would say maybe polymath because I've gone deep in learning in many different areas, but I've always thought of it as the Jane of all trades. I love learning about absolutely everything. And so I just usually know a little bit about a lot of things.
The Jane of all trades, I like how you feminize that. And I do see how those 3 words you describe yourself have really helped you in this nonprofit that you're the president of. All right, now we're going to try to figure out 2 truths and a lie. Go ahead.
Okay, I pierced my own ears.
Okay.
I gave flowers to Elvis Presley when he was performing on a stage when I was a child, and I was in a Disney movie.
Oh, wow. Okay. I don't think you're old enough to give Elvis flowers. Am I right?
I am old enough to give Elvis flowers, but you are correct, and that's the one that is not true. My cousin actually did it.
Oh.
He's much younger than me.
Oh, okay. Well, you know
So,
someone who did it.
yes.
So did you pierce your own ears your first time or your second time?
No, my mom took me to the doctor and I had them pierced. And I remember I almost fainted. They had to lay me down. And then I was older and with my friends, and we put a potato behind our ear and pierced a second hole, which I let them all grow in shortly thereafter because my ears never liked wearing earrings. So
Yeah, mine neither. The potato trick, huh?
who
All
does that?
right. Tell us a movie you could watch over and over and never get tired of.
Well, my husband would say there's hardly any movie she'll watch again with me. If she's already seen it, we never watch it again.
Gotta learn something new, right? That's your word.
But do love rom-coms, and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is one of my favorite with Andy Anderson, the how-to girl.
Yep.
I've always wanted to work at a magazine or have a magazine, and so I kind of like a little envious of her role there and her getting to be a co-protagonist with Matthew McConaughey's character.
Uh-huh. I love that one too. That is a fun one. Okay, so who's someone in your life, even if it's from a distance, who makes you want to be more like her?
It's interesting because the person that came to my mind is actually my mother. And here we are talking about being moms, being true to who we are. But, it really, for me, speaks to the impact that a mother does have and how much their children can desire to have some of their traits that you want to emulate. And I was just in Florida and a different home, but it still felt like home. It still felt like I was being nurtured. And my mother's 82. So, like, she's still so nurturing, so doting, so complimentary, so encouraging, my biggest cheerleader. And I just think those are wonderful qualities for me to do for my own children.
Yeah. What a compliment to your mom. It's great to see that as mothers, we have that ability to do that. And as we give them the gift of exploring our dreams and our passions, we allow them that freedom to do that as well when they see us doing that. And to see what an example mothers can be and that she's that in your life. All right. Last question of get to know you a little bit. What's a piece of wisdom that has stayed with you, the kind you find yourself coming back to again and again?
I'm going to speak to one that I'm coming back to right now. It's currently one that I just am focusing on and pondering on. And it's a little bit unusual. The person who really brought who I really am, the curriculum that's a part of that framework, who developed that. His name is Roger Anthony. And I learned that he used to say when he was alive to go slow to get there fast. I've been wanting to understand what he meant by that. And so I've been keeping that in the back of my mind as I go through life because I'm someone who's sometimes rushing, even when I'm doing the dishes. There's no reason to rush. I just feel like I'm in a hurry. I feel like I need to hurry up and get the dishes done, and I need to hurry up and get to where I'm going, and I need to hurry up and do whatever I need to do. And it's helping me to step back and to slow down and realize that I will be more in alignment and more in flow and more successful if I'm present and in my body and not feeling that unnecessary stress or pressure that's not there that I'm creating and applying it to every area of my life where I'm finding that it can help me. It's amazing when you can get still.
So profound. And I think for so many women, we just are always thinking about the next thing we have to do, the next thing, the next thing. And like you said, go doing the dishes fast. Like that's like a perfect example. And so that's really powerful. Go slow to get there fast. Well, let's go ahead and dive into some of this. Like we talked about, this is how to stop living through your kids and start living your own life. So we want to hear how you did this. Tell us how you felt when you first became an empty nester.
I would say it came up on me with no preparation at all. I didn't know that there would be any transition. I hadn't talked to other moms that became empty nesters. So I really was a little bit surprised when all of a sudden my youngest decided to go out to school in June, not even be home that last summer. So all of a sudden I found myself an empty nester even a little bit earlier than I thought I would. And in addition to it being a surprise, I just felt like a little bit like a fish out of water. I just felt like this is not familiar. I am so used to having a great understanding about what my day and life was looking like and where I was putting my time and energy and focus. And all of a sudden, it just felt like I was very unsure about what I was supposed to be doing with my life, a little bit lost.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that a lot of women don't realize that this transition is like that. We don't talk about it. You had no idea it was coming up and you were just like almost like whiplash with it. Every woman goes through this, especially if you put in your whole heart and soul into this. It's very common and also needed to help because we haven't really thought about like we have been living our life through our kids. We have their needs, helping them with their dreams, helping all these things. And we haven't really thought about what about me? It's just kind of almost this foreign, and we need some tools and some help to change that direction and to open up our minds to that. So it's interesting when I coach clients, I ask them like, what do you really desire? And I have them do this bucket list of what do you really desire? Because our unconscious brain will go to work creating that, whatever it is, and you don't even realize
That's
it. And they have the hardest time making that list. And it's so normal. Take some time. And sometimes they'll come back the next week and they'll be like, I only got 5 things down. I'm like, that's fine. Just keep working on it. But you have to kind of learn that skill. When did you first notice that your whole life had quietly become about your kids and that somewhere along the way you disappeared?
I'm really thinking about that question because I think it was when I had an experience where, well, it's interesting that you talked about the bucket list because I actually have one of those bucket lists. So it's interesting for me to go back prior to that because mine had over 50 things on it, that things that I personally just wanted to do and achieve and experience. But that wasn't always the case because I think when I decided that, okay, here I am, I have no idea what I want to do, maybe I'll consider doing something. And I just realized I had no idea what I wanted to do. Like you said with your coaching clients, it wasn't just the simple answer of, oh, okay, now I'm going to just do this. It was a real discovery. It was a real exploration. It was a lot of inner work here to really understand what was true for me. Because a lot of my life, I think I made decisions even when I went to school, there's times that you make choices based on what you think someone thinks you should do, or just what you think would aligns with what your gifts are. Okay, I'm good at this, so I'll do that. As opposed to what do I really want? What am I really passionate about? And when I started asking myself those questions, I really had no idea. And I said, it's because I never allowed myself to while I was taking care of my children and raising them. I feel like to some extent, maybe a lot of other moms can relate to this. I feel like I just took my life and put it up on this nice little shelf. And
Yep.
it sat there for decades. And then all of a sudden, I'm pulling my life back and I'm no longer a young person, no children. And I realized that I had done that I really hadn't allowed myself as I was growing and develop with the families to be able to remember, oh yeah, that's right. There's me.
Yes, definitely. And that's the work I do is I help women bring themselves back there down on their shelves and also realize that during the time they were on their shelves, they learned lots of skills and lots of abilities and lots of things that they've done as a mother and things that they've learned. Just think about each one of your children. You had to figure them out and you were all different and you had to learn how to parent them and how to help them and their different challenges that they had. And you figured all that out. And so it's like you're bringing all that with you, with connecting
Oh
it with
yeah.
that woman on the shelf.
Which is, I think, is a little bit unfair because I guess that's maybe the wrong word, but like it's an ideal situation. You have all this life experience now when you get to sit down and ask yourself this question, what do I want to do now? Where when you're young and you're first going to college, you don't have as much life experience. So you may end up, you may end up in the right place, but I think we have an unfair advantage exploring these questions once we've raised our children and we're in this space, in this place, and we have all this life experience and maturity behind us.
Yeah, definitely. And really, you say an unfair advantage, and you said maybe that's not the right word. And I might agree with that. It's kind of like, it's like this beautiful advantage. When we try to figure out what we wanted to major in college or something, now we have all this experience, we kind of know. And it does take some experimenting. So let's go to that next question. What did you want for yourself that you had stopped letting yourself think about? So you said it takes that practice to know what did you want? What did you decide? How did you figure that out?
Well, interestingly enough, I think about my path forward. For many people, you think of the path like this that you follow. And for me, because of who I am, I have so many interests. I actually have an undergraduate degree in one field, a master's degree in another field, and I'm a student now in a doctorate program in a completely different field. Like I just have so much that I wanted to do that the biggest challenge for me was narrowing it down. And that just seemed impossible and really challenging. So I was just really trusting that if I just do what felt in alignment right now, that my path would lead me to where I am today. And it did. But I do remember when you're in that space, when I was still discovering and still just following where I felt to go, learning what I felt to learn, going and attending different things that I felt to do, whatever that exploration piece was, I finally learned to get comfortable with not knowing. And I think that was very pivotal for me to be okay in that space where I don't have all the answers, where I don't have it all figured out. Because it's sometimes hard when you go and you're in some type of seminar and everybody else kind of is in their lane. They know what they're doing, they're setting their goals, and you don't know. But I still played. I still got myself in there and followed my heart, followed what felt right, and just trusted that this is still part of my path is learning and seeing where it leads as long as I keep it. And there were times where I had to literally take things off my plate and say, those things don't feel right for me
Mhm.
right now, and put back on only what did feel right. So it ended up finally leading me to where I needed to go by being okay in that space.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, what story were you telling yourself that kept you stuck in the supporting role of everyone else's life?
For me, I would say that it was a few things. One was that my needs don't really matter
Mm,
as much as everyone else's needs. That was for me. And my mom, she taught me that too. She was just a super 60s housewife, just took
yeah.
care of everyone. And I have learned and observed, though, that she still golfs. She still does a lot of things that she loves to do that she's doing for her. But I think it was that I just didn't feel like I could prioritize some of those things that I maybe would like to pursue or develop in myself. And sometimes we tell ourselves these things and they're not true. This is a belief that wasn't true. I think I could have done that anytime. I was the gatekeeper. And I think the other thing was realizing that I feel like that with a family and all the other demands that you have on your time, that I wouldn't have the support perhaps to do those things.
Mm,
And I needed to be the one to take care of everything,
yeah.
right? We tend to do that and not trusting that it would be provided, that it would show up for me. And then my own belief systems that I had to work through or fears, addressing what fears I had about doing those things and how it might affect or impact my children.
Yeah. I think what you brought up are a lot of things that women in general feel. And so, especially now when you're an empty nester, you have the time and the permission to pursue those things. That brings us to the next question. What finally did crack you open and what made you decide that your life deserved attention too?
I remember the event and when it happened. So I was sitting in a chair in my bedroom and it was during COVID. And I think shifted everything for me was I got a phone call from my son and we were quarantined, I think, from him at the time with the kids. And I think somebody had gotten exposed or something. So he had to call me to give me this news, which I'm really kind of glad that happened because he let me know that he and my daughter-in-law and the grandchildren were going to be moving to Kansas City. I was just floored. I remember hanging up the phone, crying so hard that I think I couldn't breathe. I was just like, oh, because it was such a joy in my life to be with grandchildren. Not only was I, engaged with my children, but my grandchildren. It was a whole new level of engagement as a grandmother or a nana, as they refer to me. And so it just felt like, whoa. And I thought, okay, what am I going to do? I mean, my husband was traveling for work and they were going to be gone. And I just knew that this felt like the right time. I had tried a couple other times to pursue some things and that they just didn't come together because what I really wanted to do was go back to school. But the first two other times that I tried to do it, it just didn't align and it didn't come together and it didn't feel like the right program and it wasn't at the right location. So in that moment, I went and grabbed my computer and I started searching for a graduate program in what I was feeling like was starting to feel right for me, which was the nonprofit management and leadership. I found a program that had both disciplines that I could study, and it was one that I was going to be able to do. And it was a turning point for me.
Oh, I love that. And I love how it just took your breath away. And I also like how you had tried different paths and it just didn't feel aligned. I love that we've used that word a few times, aligned. And just to know that it's okay to take messy action and to be like, this is a process. And that's what I do with coaching is helping women to open their mind back up to what do I want again? And then also to finding that alignment and realizing that it is a process. There's no one right way. And you could try something. And like you said, you tried two other times. And then
Mhm.
you finally found what to study that was perfect. It sounds like it was a perfect gateway into the
Yeah.
threshold into what you're doing.
Yes. And it worked really well into my life and my life situation. But I want to point out when it comes to alignment that I had to learn because I am that think out of the box problem solving. That's one of my superpowers. My
Yeah.
family always says that I didn't push and try to make something happen because I felt like I should, or to just give up
Mm-hmm.
either. So there's the push and the pull. It was learning that once I felt that, it was like, wow, this is what it feels like when things are in alignment and how it flowed and how well my program went and fit. And then where that path led me to working with an organization in Africa and then all these other organizations I now work with all over the world. It all just flows, is what I found. And so I just want listeners to recognize when they start to feel like they're pushing or when they're pulling so that they can just pay attention to that because it feels very different from alignment.
I love that. And that goes with that wisdom you talked about at the beginning to go slow to get there fast, right? You took that time, you went slow, you tried, you said you had other attempts and it just didn't
Mhm.
quite work. You got back in tune, back in alignment. And then when it was aligned, you've been able to get there fast. I love that. Okay. Final question. What would you say to women listening who love their kids fiercely and are starting to wonder if there's more for them too?
Well, I'm going to pick out a word that you said this time. That is that I give them permission. They have permission to wonder. I think curiosity is fantastic. It's what gets things going. And it's not the knowing, we don't have to know, but just getting curious and wondering and starting to ask those questions and becoming reflective and thinking through, okay, I'm going to spend some time on this. And I think it's quite often we want to express love in our families. Love is spoken here. That's one of my favorite phrases, but it's also spoken here, right? So with our own selves. I was invited to write a song for Who I Really Am, the organization. And the very first line that I wrote was, the present and the future will someday be the past, but who we are becoming is what will truly last. I just want to remind women that we are still becoming and reaching our divine potential. It is a wonderful thing to wonder, and to wonder who we can become if we give ourselves this opportunity to explore our own personal mission and purpose and what else we can do that we haven't yet considered.
And giving the women permission, we're both giving you, this is your invitation, right, to these women. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Tell us, is there anything you want to leave listeners with before we leave? And where can people find you if they want to help out with your nonprofit or get involved?
I have above me, I'd like to have quotes around me that inspire me and help me to stay true to who I really am and have those little words of encouragement that we all need. And so I think I'll pick one that's above me and see which one resonates. Right now, the one is, it's at the very top and it says, go confidently in the direction of your dreams. And so I hope that will be a part of their journey, that they can have that confidence, that they can go in that direction and achieve things they never even probably can dream right now. I mean, like you said, it's hard when they're doing that bucket list. I can only come up with 5, but you came up with 5, right? Dare to dream. And those dreams become realities. They really, really do. And so I know that it's really enriched my life being able to do that. And if they'd like to connect with me, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm on there, and also maureenmehr.com on my website.
Very good. Thank you for being here today. You had some great words of wisdom and just given the permission to dream and that confidence that you really can. And when you desire it, that's a roadmap to your best life and tells your brain to try to go create it. It's possible.
Absolutely. Good point. Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Okay, before I let you go, I want to come back to something Maureen said near the end of this conversation. She said what women really need right now is permission. Permission to wonder, permission to want something, permission to look up at that shelf and finally take their life back down again. So consider this me giving you that permission right now. If this felt familiar, you're not alone. I created a short quiz, Who Am I, after the kids leave. It helps you name what actually is going on for you in this season and what you might need next. You'll find the link in the description. And if you want more conversations like this, you could subscribe. I'm here every week.